Hi, I'm Logan with AMKUS Rescue Systems, and today we're going to be walking through an end-user inspection of our tools. So the idea is that this inspection would be used anytime that you take these tools out of the department and use them, whether that be for an afternoon training or whether that be for a live extrication. This is just a 5-minute walkthrough on how to kick the tires, check the important spots on the tool, and what to do if you find something that needs attention. So the first thing that you'll want to do when you get these tools back into the firehouse is you're going to want to check kind of the business end of the tool. So for the rams, you're going to want to check your grip heads, both on the front and the back of the tool for any damage. They could be cracked, they could be missing entirely. You'll want to make sure that you have one of these grip heads on both ends and that they're in good shape. For the cutters, you're going to want to inspect your blades. In particular, that the flat side is still flat. So you can see on this one, they bit into something pretty gnarly, and it put kind of a raised proud edge in the middle of the blade. That's something that it can be fixed, but I would fix that before I use this tool again. So you'll want to make sure that that flat side of the blade stays flat. You want to make sure that there aren't any cracks or chips missing from the front of the blade. And if there are, you're going to want to contact your dealer to have them in for a service. For your Combi tools, you'll also want to check the blades. Same thing as the cutters, that the flat side is flat, that the tips don't have any cracks or missing pieces on them or surface damage. But the other thing with the Combis that you'll want to check is the tips. And there's kind of two things that we're checking for on the tips. Number one, we're checking for a smooth mechanism. We want this slide pin to slide in and out relatively easily. If you're finding that it's kind of found up or it's a little bit corroded, we recommend a product called CLB, stands for Cleans, Lubricates, and Protects. But any kind of protective fluid to put on that black oxide slide pin to help prevent any corrosion will help ensure that that mechanism continues to move smoothly. The second thing that you're going to want to look for is any damage to the tip itself. Sometimes we'll see corners cracked off of the tip. Sometimes we'll see the back end will have kind of a hairline fracture in it. Anything on these where a piece of the tip is cracked or missing is usually unacceptable and should be replaced with a new tip. So that's what we do for the Combis. And then similar thing for the spreaders, except you're not just going to want to check the tips, you're also going to want to check the tip pins. So we can see on this particular tool, the pins are seized up. This one, the pins are stuck in, so the tip won't actually stay on. And this one, the pins are seized in the open position, so I can't get the tip off. So that's something that you want to contact your dealer about if you see that. The other thing that you're going to want to look for is the actual, the tip itself. Do you have a cracked front corner of the tip? Or the second thing to look for on these is, do you have any hairline fractures starting to form at the base of the tip? We'll typically see those form somewhere around these easy on-ramps by the tip pin holes. And they're easy to miss by a quick look. So you want to make sure that you're taking a close look at these. Because if you keep this cracked tip on the tool and go to make a spread, it will quickly end up looking like this. And that goes not just for the standard gator tips, but also for the extended reach tips as well. So make sure that you're investigating both the business ends to make sure that there's no cracks or damages to the actual spreading ends, and then also checking around that tip pin hole and those easy on ramps to ensure that there are no hairline fractures forming around those points as well that could propagate into bigger cracks down the road. So that's the first thing that we're going to want to check is the end effector of the mechanism still in good shape? The second thing then that we'll look for is, does the control valve auto-return? This is what's called a dead man mechanism. It's required by NFPA, and the idea is that if you let go of the tool stops running. It can happen where these mechanisms, so the spring can get dislodged or the mechanism can get dirty and bound up. And if you notice that when you rotate this control valve and let go, it does not snap back to center, then you need to contact your dealer to have them come out and adjust your control valve port for you to make sure that that dead man mechanism is functioning properly. After we do those two things, the next thing that we're going to want to look at is our battery connector. So as these battery connectors sometimes get coated in oil or dirt or grime, that can interfere with the connection between the tool and the battery. That adds extra resistance. It requires extra current to be pulled through the tool to make the same amount of power. And overall, it means that performance of your tool is going to be diminished. So what we'll want to do is check those battery tabs, ensure that there is no dirt or grime building up. If there is, you would take some paper towel, clean rags, some compressed air, a Q-tip, anything along those lines, and just try and clean as much of that grime out as possible. You can also, if you would like, put a very small amount of dielectric grease on these pins to help ensure that you continue to get that good connection with the battery. Just be mindful that you don't have any shorts between the pins with that dielectric. So for leaks, it's pretty straightforward. This is typically easier if the tool has been sitting for at least an hour or two, sometimes a day. If it's a small leak, it can take a while to notice where it's coming from. And typically, if you just let the tool sit in one position, you'll be able to tell if there's a small mortar-sized pool of fluid somewhere, where it's leaking from, and that information can be really valuable to tell your dealer so that they know what kind of service they're going to need. The typical places that we might see leaks are going to be from the front end around the piston. So from the ram, it'll be right out the front end of the stop block. For your cutters, combis, and spreaders, typically it will manifest itself either as a pool of fluid coming out from by the arms or the blades, or you'll start to see a kind of a thick layer of dirt and grime building up on the lower portion of the arms or blades as that oil coats those and they start to attract more of the dust and the debris. The final place that we'll typically see leaks is going to be from underneath your motor cover. There is a rubber bladder in here that will expand and contract as the tool runs, and it's possible for a leak to develop between that rubber bladder and the pump housing. So if you see any fluid coming out from these ventilation holes on your motor cover or leaking out from your motor cover retaining ring, it's likely that your bladder has sprung a leak and you'll need to get that addressed. For the cutters and combis, we're also going to want to check the center bolt tool. So for an end user in the field, the best thing that I can recommend is just grab it and give it a good untwisting. If you can untwist it by hand, it's a problem. If it's on there pretty tight to the point where you can't undo it by hand, then you're probably in okay shape. But what we would recommend, especially on a new tool, you're going to want to retorque this center bolt relatively often. Talk to your dealer about that because they might have more specific instructions for you than what I might provide. But just note that the center bolt torque on our cutters and combis is kind of a critical thing, and if this bolt becomes too loose, you can end up with failures that you might not be expecting. So then the final thing that we have to look at is going to be our lighted handle and rotating cup. So on all the tools, you'll want to check that the lighted handle lights up. For the newer models, you'll see that we have the Guardian Angel lights. This one, clearly not charged. I would plug that one back into the charger before putting it back into the part. And then the final thing that you want to look for is your rotating handle. So this one is pretty good. You can see that when we have the red lever in the up position, that handle rotates pretty freely. And then when we lock it down, it sinks down pretty hard and it doesn't want to rotate anymore. If for some reason this was, a little bit outside of spec, or it's real loosey-goosey, or it's way too tight, what we recommend doing is you can take a 5mm Allen key and take that bolt all the way out, put just a little bit of blue Loctite on it, and then torque it back down until you get to that nice desired setting where when the handle is down, you don't get any rotation, and when the handle is up, it's spinning as freely as you want. That's about all there is to these tool checks. So just as a reminder of the things that we looked at, we checked the end effector of the tool, so we made sure that the tips, the blades, the pushing heads were all in good shape. There was no damage to any of those. We checked for any leaks that were coming from the front end, from under the control valve, from under the motor cover. We checked that the control valve auto returns. We confirmed that the battery connectors are clean and you will get a good connection with your battery. We confirmed that the lighted handle is working as it's supposed to, and that the tension on the rotating cuff on the cutters and combis is correct. If all of those things are true, you're ready to put that tool back in the compartment.